Hi, my name's Sue and this is Sue Marie P. I love baking with spelt flour and I had a request from one of my viewers, hi Seska. She said, could I share some seeded bread rolls? So I've made a recipe up and I'm going to share that with you today. I've soaked some seeds overnight in water. I'm doing a combination of pumpkin, flax and sunflower seeds, but feel free to add chia instead of flax, or you can add some sesame seeds. And I'm borrowing the Tangzhou or yudane starter from my Japanese spelt buns, and I'm doing that in this recipe just to make them a little bit softer. When you heat a starter up, the flour kind of, what's the technical term? It pre-gelatinizes the starches in the flour, so then the flour can absorb more water and it results in better structure, easier to knead, and you had a softer bun, which I thought was important because they're doing a combination of whole grain spelt flour and a little bit of white. So first step, we need to heat the pot up. And in here, I'm going to make like a roux. So I've got some flour. I'm just using white spelt. So that is, just check my notes, 20 grams or 2 tablespoons. And I'm doing some water, so 25 grams of water. I'm using 60 grams of oat milk. And you can do all milk or all water, but I found this way the best. And I just keep stirring that until it gets thick and there's no lumps. So it creates like a paste. And apparently both in China and Japan, they've been making their bread like this for many years. We still use an instant dried yeast in the bread as well. It happens really fast, so you don't want to take your eye off it or walk away. Just trying to get those last bits of lumps out of there. So it's not the smoothest I've made today, but I think it'll be fine. I'm going to turn that off. So I've made this kind of like really thick paste. So what I'll do is I need to set that aside and cool it down for about 10 minutes before I do the next step. So the next step, we're going to pop all of the flour and yeast in the bowl. So I'm using, as I said, combination. So I've got 350 grams of whole grain spelt flour, which is about 2 cups plus 2 tablespoons. And I weigh everything because when I swap flours around, whole grain spelt flour weighs more than white spelt flour. So just be careful when you're using cup measurements. I've got white spelt 150 grams or 1 cup. And these are cup measurements UK Australian. So if you're from the US, it might be slightly different. In here I've got some dried yeast, which is 7 grams or 2 teaspoons. I'm just going to mix those kind of till they combine a little bit. And in my jug here, I'm using some oat milk and I've warmed it up in the microwave. That's 180 mils, or you can use water. And I'll pop some other measurements above. I've done it both ways, but I prefer using the oat milk. And now we're going to add our starter that's cooled down. So it's kind of like this gluey, bobbly mess. So I'll get that formed a little bit. And I've pre-rinsed and drained my seeds. I've tried this recipe a few ways, not soaking my seeds at all. And then I read a few different articles on the internet that said you really need to soak the seeds for better digestion. And then I soaked them for 15 minutes and made it, and it was okay. And then I found that soaking them overnight in 1 cup of water was the best way. Now we're going to add 10 grams of salt. It's always important not to put the salt next to the yeast because the salt kind of counteracts the effectiveness of the yeast. And then I'm going to add in 2 tablespoons of olive oil. I've made this recipe so it can be adapted for vegan. I do an egg wash because I prefer that, but I've also experimented and done an egg wash with oat milk, so then it's 100% vegan. And I've also done sugar, but today I'm going to add honey because I like the flavour of that more. So I'm going to add 1 tablespoon. But as I said, if you're following vegan diet, swap it out for sugar or maple syrup. So that was just 1 tablespoon. And you'll notice this mixture is a little bit drier. We have so much moisture in the seeds that it tends to kind of sort itself out once you put the seeds in. Okay, so I've got this kind of shaggy dough happening here. And I'm going to throw all the seeds in. I did try making it where I did the first proof and then tried to add the seeds in. And it was so hard to add them in that I thought I need to add them in first. So I'm going to throw all those in. So what I've done, I've popped in 40 grams or 1/4 of a cup of flax seeds, 50 grams or 1/3 of a cup of pumpkin seeds, and 50 grams or 1/3 of a cup of sunflower. So I'm going to knead this for about 5 minutes. Just going to stop it and help it along. I've noticed some of the seeds and flour is sticking to the outside of the bowl. I'm just stopping that to have a look. I actually think it's ready. That was only 3-minute knead. I'm going to stop it there, and what I'll do is I'm going to grab another little bowl and pop it into that. So I like transferring it into a Pyrex bowl that I've pre-oiled with some olive oil. So I'm just scraping that out. Got a few seeds left behind. Then I just try and, it's a bit of a sticky mess at the moment, but I try and kind of bring it together a little bit. And then I cover it and let it rest for an hour until it doubles in size. Hey Siri, set a timer for 60 minutes. So it's been an hour and my dough is looking really good. It's nice and puffy. So the next step is I need to dust my bench top with a little bit of flour, and I like using rice flour. And then I've got my scales here. I'm going to measure out to do 12 small dinner rolls, and they're going to weigh about 92 grams each. And if you like larger rolls, you can do about 8. But we found that because it's got all the nuts and seeds and it's because it's got seeds and it's whole grain, they're quite filling, so a small roll was perfect for us. Sometimes I forget what I'm saying. So I'm just going to dust that with a little bit of flour and on my hands. And we don't want to like knock too much of this air out, so I don't really need it that much at this stage. I just coat it with the flour just so it's easier to divide. And I make it into kind of a log or a sausage. Cut it in half, and then I want to get 6, put that to one side, about 6 rolls of 92 grams each on this half. Probably speed this process up for the camera, or for you at home rather. And if they're not precise, like that first one was 88, it's kind of okay. That's 108. It's kind of thereabouts. Unless you want to be perfect, precise, you can just take some off each roll. Okay, they're almost the same size. So what I do is this dough, because it's got all the seeds in it, you can't really stretch it. So I just kind of like try and form it come to a ball. So I pull it and make it taut, and then I just roll it on my bench and then make the best shaped circle that you can without disturbing too much of the puffiness, and then I just place it on my tray. So I just flatten it a bit, stretch it into the center. I'll clean my hands and zoom you in. It's a bit tricky with the one girl camera person. But the first time I made these, when I didn't add the seeds first, they were really hard to move and make a circle or a nice shaped dough. But I did it anyway, and they were kind of rusty, but they still tasted great. So I'm doing them in my prepared tin, which is a rectangle tin with sides, and I do 3, like 6 on either side, so 3 in a row. I'm going to zoom you in so you can see how I knead it. Okay, you'll be able to see that better. So I just flatten it and pull it in to the center. But it's not a real stretchy dough like normal bread. And then form it into the circle. You can even roll it like this. But just a gentle roll. But it kind of just forms itself, and it doesn't matter if it looks messy underneath. And just pop them in the tray. So just flatten it slightly and bring that into the center. Look, I'm no expert at this, but this way worked for me. So I'll just show you what I did. And all the seeds seem to stay in place. So they're all rolled. Now I cover it with a cloth and rest it for 30 minutes. So while our dough balls are resting for another 30 minutes, now it's time to heat up your oven. Pop it onto 200 degrees C with a fan. Pop other Fahrenheit measurements above. I think it's 400 degrees Fahrenheit. And then that'll be nice and hot, and then we can bake them. My 15-minute timer went off, so I'm just going to go and check them. Needed to get a tray to put them on. Word of warning, when you add the steam to the oven, you've got to watch it when you get the door open because it goes in your face. Okay, let me check. Do a little. They sound hollow. They look great. They're really golden. Some of them are joined together, which I don't mind. That's perfect. I need to let them cool for at least about 30 minutes before I break one open and show you. Sorry, I talk too fast sometimes. I'll let them rest for a little bit, then let's do a taste test. So it's time to rip one open. They're still quite warm. So I'm just going to use a knife. So check that out. It's quite light and fluffy. You can see all those gorgeous seeds. And if I break a little bit off, look at that. Yum. So I hope you've enjoyed my soft seed spelt rolls today. Give it a go. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up. Subscribe if you're new here today. And stick around because I'll pop a few other bread recipe ideas in spelt flour up above. And don't forget, if you wanted to follow me on Facebook or Instagram or Pinterest, if you wanted to join my free membership on my website, sign up to my newsletter at suemariep.com, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.